you can only have a competitor in a finite game, right? In a game of baseball or football, you want to beat your competitor, and then the game ends, but the competitors live on to fight another day, right? That's what happens. But in business, there is no such thing as winning or losing at a macro level. When we talk about winning in a game that cannot be won, what ends up happening is we focus too much on beating the enemies. We look to exploit their weaknesses, or because we pick our own metrics and our time frames to exaggerate those things in the short term, but we're not actually building a stronger company. A healthier way to view another player in an infinite game is to, instead of thinking of them as a competitor to be beaten, you think of them as rivals. Some of those rivals are worthy of comparison, meaning they do one or many things better than you. Their strengths reveal to you your weaknesses. And so we should be grateful for the other players in the game, and instead of trying to beat them, we can learn from them. So the best example I can offer is a personal, or at least it's a funny example, is a personal story. I had the opportunity to speak at an education summit for Microsoft. I also had an opportunity to speak in an education summit for Apple. At the Microsoft summit, the vast majority of the executives spent the vast majority of their presentations talking about how they were going to beat Apple. At the Apple summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talked about how they were going to help teachers teach and help students learn. One was obsessed with their mission, the other one was obsessed with beating their competition, right? At the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. That was Microsoft's response to the iPod. And if you listen to any of the press that Microsoft put out at the time or anything that Steve Ballmer said, they were going to beat Apple, right? That was their obsession. So at the end of my Apple talk, I was sharing a taxi with one of the senior executives, and I couldn't help myself. I had to stir the pot. And I turned to him and I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune. It is so much better than my iPod Touch. And he looked at me and he said, I have no doubt. And the conversation was over. What he understood is sometimes you have the better product and sometimes they have the better product. Sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. There's no winning or losing. And because Microsoft was obsessed with beating Apple, all of their focus and attention went on to making a better iPod, right? Where Apple was more obsessed with outdoing themselves. They couldn't care less what Microsoft was doing. And about a year later, Apple introduced the iPhone, which rendered both the Zune and the iPod completely obsolete. And that's the point. The innovation that came out of the organization didn't come because they were trying to best their competitor. It came from trying to best themselves. And so in the infinite game of business, we need to stop trying to beat our competitors and start identifying which of the other people who do what we do some things or many things better than us. Maybe better leadership, better training, better marketing, whatever it is. And say, okay, let's up our game. Because business is a game where two players, can offer a similar product at similar price and both be wildly successful at the same time. And so it's a fool's errand to try and win. It doesn't make sense.
At the midst of the pandemic kicking off, ventilators were in very high demand. Open sourced our ventilator patent. Another example is the Ventilator Training Alliance that you offered some free advice to me on, right? Where we were not only trying to train on our products, but we helped our competitors train on this platform. So some people would say, that's not good business to help your competitors. What's flawed in their thinking?
They don't understand business. When you say what's good business, the best players in business play for the good of the game. Right? That's what the infinite game is. It's for the good of the game. And at the end of the day, the good of the game means it's good for all business. And at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do from a moral and ethical standpoint. Like, was it illegal for you to hoard your patents? No, of course not. Would people have faulted you for it? Maybe, maybe not. You know, but did it build trust with people? Yes. Will it make you the go-to company of choice, even if you're slightly more expensive later down the road? Highly likely. Will people come to you advice and turn down somebody else who is more finite and selfishly driven? Did you demonstrate that you actually care about other people other than yourselves? Yes, 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 yes. And in the short term, yes, it cost you something. Of course it did, right? In the long term, it'll pay dividends way more than whatever was spent in the short term. So I think anybody who thinks it's a fool's errand to do that, who thinks that that's not business, all they're doing is revealing themselves as finite players, and all they're doing is revealing themselves as short-term mindset.